Hello everyone, this is TCI, and in this video we're going to talk about what makes objective communication, and further from that, or at least more on that lineup, we're going to talk about if clear and concise is a form of objective communication in particular. So the vast majority seems to think that while it may not be a requirement to have objective communication through means of clear and concise, they may see that as a guideline or at least some form of insufferable traits that would come from communication in general. They don't want to live in a world where everything can never be clear and concise, which I can even agree that would be pretty terrible. But for the vast majority to believe that clear and concise is objective and guaranteed and mandatory, that doesn't seem any better than if clear and concise was just there in its own corner of the universe and it didn't have to astray or object or coerce anyone into actually being clear and concise as if it was desperate or abundant. It doesn't come to me that there may need to be a balance even then, but for what it's worth, it doesn't come across very better to me. To be specific about that, I would probably give an example about how, or actually, if I don't need to give an example, as I'm hearing from other advices I've been hearing, the examples aren't always necessary as long as you explain the concepts in their own practical manner. I'll go with that for now, and then give examples if I need to later, if I want to at least, maybe then. But to explain, I'm going to just say that I've been asked to be clear and concise, not just in general, but as a standard to whenever I communicate anything. I think, because you guys can already tell that if I haven't said it already, if I haven't explained it in my life story, my communication style and skills, whether they even qualify as that or not, I don't even know if they'll use the word qualification for other complicated reasons. Long story about that. And sorry for saying that too much if I never actually explained. That's another controversy that I get into, but my family burdening me on that. There's a lot of twists and turns that my family uses that don't really make sense, but they do. They have the insensitive nature of terrible qualities, but they don't have to be terrible qualities for my family. They just happen to be twists and turns I can observe. And even observation is something that's controversial, obviously, for them and not so much for me, but other way around, but yeah. Anyways, I've been asked by people, by friends and family, to be clear and concise. Not all of them, that's why I say it's the vast majority, but or maybe the vast minority. But being clear and concise by standards of, whether in general or by standard, to be clear and concise about the things that I do or say or think. Maybe it's like just in general what I'm saying, like making something, summarizing something, making something understandable. Those are the two ideals from that, understandable and summarized. And then, so I wouldn't have to talk too much. I wouldn't have to use irrelevant words. And some of this already sounds disturbing to me already. It shouldn't have to, obviously, but for me, that's disturbing. That's like really, like that's not how I would do things, even if it's not logical or grammatical, speaking of that. But I lived in a world where either I enjoyed a sea of words or a sea of different realms of understanding, that if together I didn't have to ever actually connect to people by communication or by other means. And then being outcasted by even other outcasts, that feeling. And then assuming that things like my mental disorder and of the nature of things like my porn addiction and other things actually kept me aside until you realize that those things are actually relevant in ways that you couldn't even possibly imagine. So the people who are autistic, the people who are on NoFap, etc., they don't have to be too different from you. And I already knew that, but people acted like I thought there was something that made us completely different. And they would always have to explain to me, we're not that different. I never made it look like that in the first place, but the way this is relevant to communication and objectiveness is that I don't think that I'm too different from other people, but they'll act like I am. And so in terms of communication, they will have different ways of communicating than me. We'll still be similar, but the way that outlandishly makes it look like I don't communicate properly to people who actually have similar traits as me, and they still cast me aside. It's pretty messed up. But I'm not going to digress from that because that's the whole point, but the video. The actual problem I have isn't so much uh, uh, what you call it, what you call it, sacrificing, uh, giving something up, like in terms of communication, making sure that I will follow their rules in order to just at least connect to them. May sound a little disturbed in itself, by itself, but I think it doesn't have to always be that way. I could always try to figure out if there's something that's worth sacrificing, or and that can be controversial, obviously, but for anyone, even me, but if it's worth sacrificing my own traits of communication just to connect with them, and then see if there was a reason to do that, even if that was supposed to be a given, because even a given's and guaranteed not the those expressions of philosophy. I don't think those have to be always be the point either. But there's a lot that I do say that comes in a very little what I say. So there's a very disturbing and fucked up way of describing how I could be insightful in clear, concise ways, which actually pisses me off already. No, and like 50% of it is me being grateful that I can at least communicate at all, and the other 50% is me being pissed off that people can actually find out. Now, at first I was happy because this was good news to know that there were special things about this, but then the other half was like, okay, well, but then what happens really when only a little bit of you can explain more than you think? That's being clear and concise, and by that very nature. And that's something that does not sit steady with me. I never believe in being clear and concise, because even if it's a resourcefulness that I've always treasured, on the other half of the coin, it's a standard that they live by, not a generalization. And even generalizations can be bad, but that's a better stand-up point than just being a standard that people think are mandatory with being clear and concise. And for me to say that many times over without even believing in it, you already kind of get an idea of how I feel about that. But just for these next 3 minutes, I'm going to try to explain maybe one example or two about how this makes me think or feel. But really, I'm still going with the practical, explaining the concept thing kind of thing, mannerism. That's what I learned from advice giving, because examples don't have to always be effective or even be reasonable. That's a sad truth about how normalization gets to people. But that's not me being an asshole or overcomplicated person. I'm just saying that because that's why I've been learning, even if it's not the right people to learn from. But who's to say that? I guess. But let me keep turning these lights for some reason. I do not want to have a reality where, and this is it coming into wherever dreams of reality, fantasy, or touch of grass or whatever. I don't think that just accepting what's in front of you is good. I don't think just accepting that communication happening a certain way just to exist or to communicate your needs and then maybe have a standpoint that works in your favor. If you can have something that doesn't look like, because the very first vlog I posted on this channel was the how wants work and how you should go about your life without thinking that you have to be wanting everything. Like, that was the first vlog, I think it was. It was vlog number 1, the old one from 2018. I went about how you don't have to set standards so damn high where you have to prove that you want everything that you're getting to through discipline. There are some guaranteed wants, and there are also some standards that should not have to exist in order to cooperate with other people, especially in terms of communication or objective communication, therefore. If you can make sure that you don't have to be clear and concise, not just in communication, but particularly with it, you can find a way to not even exceptionally elaborate on certain things, not even to exceptionally anti-concise certain things for logical reasons of their own. There is a way that this works. There's a reality you can have, not even so much in an Ayn Rand kind of way. The world's yours or whatever. But there's truth to that too, obviously. But you have to make sure that if you're not going to communicate to connect easily, and not even in a practical way that makes sense to even you, let alone other people, and that's how it does seem to work sometimes. Because if it only makes sense to other people, it will never make sense to you. And if it only makes sense to you, why think that it will make sense to other people? That's my controversy for today. Thank you, guys.